So if everybody can just take a moment and read the slide silently to yourself. This is just a reminder that this is going to be one of many trainings throughout the 2024-2025 school year for paraprofessionals. So we're very excited about this collaboration that's going to be taking place in the future. So we'll give you a minute to read this slide.
As we mentioned earlier in our introductions, Brett and I are part of the Office of Special Education and Diverse Learners. And we wanted to share with you the mission of the Office of Diverse Learners as well as the professional development vision. The mission is that the School District of Philadelphia will deliver on the civil right of every child in Philadelphia to an excellent public school education and ensure all children graduate from high school ready to succeed, fully engaged as a citizen of our world.
And our vision is ODL is reimagining professional learning through initiative, sustainable, impactful, high-quality professional training to meet the needs of the adult learner.
Just some quick norms and expectations for today's session. We ask that you be fully engaged, solutions-oriented, hard on ideas and soft on people, keep student-focused decisions, data-driven decisions, and honor confidentiality.
And then some just virtual reminders. If you can keep your microphone muted, unless you come off to share as a whole group, if you can keep your cameras on and also use the chat feature. So here's our schedule for today. It's going to be broken up into two sessions. Session 1 is going to focus on paraprofessionals' roles and responsibilities to about 11:15. We're going to break for lunch for a half hour. And then session 2 is going to dive into the IEPs at a glance until about 1:15. And then from 1:15 to 2:15, you're going to be participating in asynchronous learning at your school until 2:15. And just a couple of reminders before we get started. This is going to be the same Zoom link that we use for the afternoon session. So when we break for lunch, we're just asking everybody remain on this link. You can shut your cameras off, turn on, put yourself on mute, take your lunch, and then at 11:45, you can jump right back in to this session. And again, just a reminder that the ask is to stay at your school until the end of your school day once you're finished with your asynchronous learning time.
Let's take a look at today's agenda and learning objectives. Today's training, paraprofessional roles and responsibilities, will focus on 3 parts. First, we'll briefly discuss part 1, which are district-related responsibilities. We'll explore and familiarize ourselves with the technology resources and tools that School District of Philadelphia employees are required to use.
Part 2, we're going to dive into role-specific responsibilities, and the goal is to define the roles and responsibilities of classroom assistants and one-to-one assistants.
And finally, we'll finish our first session with part 3 with some application and practice. This part of the training will give us an opportunity to practice what we've learned and identify roles and responsibilities of paraprofessionals by looking closely at some scenarios. Before we dive into the content for today's session, we wanted to start off with a video that includes testimonials from some of our district's very own paraprofessionals. These individuals were members of the Para-Educator Professional Growth Advisory Council, which started in December of 2023, with 10 paraprofessionals across the district, a PFT representative, and staff from the Office of Special Education and Diverse Learners, Career and Technical Education, and Professional Learning. The goal was to create a professional learning plan for paraprofessionals for the 2024-2025 school year. The session that you are engaging in today, as well as throughout the rest of this year, are due to the hard work of this advisory council, who work to develop and administer trainings that are responsive to the needs of you all as paraprofessionals. They wanted to make sure that the trainings were relevant to your role and meaningful to the work that you do every day. As we play this video, we want you to hear from some of your colleagues and think to yourself, what are you excited about as you return to the school year? Or if you're someone who is brand new, maybe something that you're looking forward to learning or seeing as a paraprofessional.
Hello, my name is George Hines. I've been part of the Philadelphia School District for 7 years. The school I work at is Roxborough High School, and I'm so happy about that. I have been participated in the Paraprofessional program, and I'm looking forward to become a special education teacher.
Hello, my name is Raquel Perez. I've been with the district for 4 years now, and I work at Luis Munoz Marin Elementary School.
Hello, my name is Ashley Grace. I've been with the district since 2016. I started as an NTA, which is now climate staff. I was a para since 2018, and I love what I do. Working with kids and making a change in their lives is the best thing ever, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I just wish incoming paras and paras that been doing this for years the best of luck, and you got this.
Has been wonderful. The Para Advisory Growth Council is wonderful because we got a chance to get together as paras, to get together to help other paras to become effective, efficient paraprofessionals in their schools. And by us talking together, what do we need to do? Have the right trainings, get it, find out what other paras are feeling about their job. All those were very important, and as we talk together as a committee and come together with the para plan, it was marvelous that we have a plan so that next school year, every para will have a chance to be effective and efficient in their own schools, and that they'll be able to help other paras to do very well also.
My journey in the Paraeducator Growth Council has been very, very enlightening. I feel like I've been seen. I feel like I have a voice, and I feel like as a para that my views are getting across, and hopefully in the new school year that we will see all the changes that we want to be made and everything. And I'm looking forward to everything that's going to happen in the upcoming year.
Journey has been good. It's been great to identify the area of needs, develop training and how to implement these ideas, and work closely with other para administrators to ensure that the professional development is not only beneficial, but it's also relevant to the paras who are incoming, but also have been doing this for years.
I believe that as paras see that their roles and responsibilities, and they will know when they come to work that they have to do an efficient job, and as a para they'll see in this upcoming school year all the trainings that they're going to be having is going to help them to do very well in the job, and even be able to work along with the teacher and the students. They'll be able to see that their job is very important, and they will come to want to work to do well on the job, to be effective with the teacher and collaborate with the teacher on how to effectively teach the students.
Professional learning is important to the paras, I believe, because I feel like we all need to operate as one team. And being in one team, we can all have that cooperative learning that we're going to learn with the teachers as well as other paras. So we can have each other's backs, we can learn from each other, learn from each other's experiences.
Professional learning is important to paras because it equips us with necessary skills and knowledge to effectively support students in educational needs, and also be able to give additional support to the teachers that we work with and our colleagues who probably are learning as they go.
And I love my position as a paraprofessional. All these years of being a paraprofessional, I've worked with many students, and I'm so happy to come to school because I love working with the students. Hey, Mr. Hines, Mr. George, how are you? And just to see that I can make an impact in their lives is definitely wonderful. And the teachers I'm working with is awesome because they're helping me not only be a great paraprofessional, but I also want to become a special education teacher. And as I'm talking with the other special ed teachers, they are working with me, helping me so that I can be an effective special education teacher one day. So working with the teachers, working with the students has just been wonderful. And that's why every day I'm excited to come to work, to be there at my school, because I just love my job so much.
My favorite thing about being a para is the kids, the students. I love the relationships I build with them. I love seeing them every morning, them being excited to see me, saying Miss Perez, Miss Perez. I love learning about them. I learn new things every day. And I also love working with the teachers in the classroom because I don't know, trying to become a teacher myself. I learn different things in the future, what I might use, and yeah, I love it.
The role of being a paraprofessional is rewarding because I get the satisfaction of supporting students and educational growth and working closely with teachers and contributing to a positive learning environment.
As a para, something I wish I had known that, yeah, I have to be ready at any given moment because I could be working with, I had one student, then another time I could be working with another student at a different time. So we have to be ready as a para. We have to be ready to be on our feet and be ready to work with all our students because we never know who we're going to work with at any given moment. So just come, be ready, dedicated, and willing to work and willing to be able to be a team player to help out. Just so if one of your fellow workers is absent, you can be able to jump right on in and help so that the classroom can continue to be effective.
Becoming a para, I wish I knew how every day was going to be different. You try to prepare yourself, you try to, expect the unexpected, but every day is going to be different depending on the child you have, depending if you get moved to a new child. And it does throw curveballs at you, but sometimes people are quick on their feet, sometimes people aren't. But there are people there that when you fall, they'll pick you back up, for sure.
The one thing I wish I had known before becoming a paraprofessional was the complexity and diversity of student needs. Because each student is unique and may need different approaches to learning, it's helpful to know that because every child is different and you can help them learn the best way that they can learn possible.
All right, now that you had a chance to watch that video with some of your peers, we're asking for you to take a moment to share with one another as a paraprofessional. If you're a newly hired paraprofessional, what are you excited for this year? And if you're a returning paraprofessional, what's your favorite thing about this job? So you can take a moment and type it in the chat, or you can jump off mute and share as a whole group. All right, so we have my favorite part is the children and seeing the growth that they make from Karen. So thank you for sharing. Absolutely. The most excited to see my kids' progress over the summer. Favorite thing is being able to make a change in students' lives and being such a safe place to some children, 100%. Meeting new kids in the class, seeing the children again after summer break and excited to be back. And meeting new children and seeing my returning kids, making a difference, all wonderful pieces. So thank you all so much for sharing. We're very excited about this school year ahead. And we're so happy to see that you're excited as well to get back into the classrooms and start supporting our students. So thank you all for sharing.
In the video, you heard some of your colleagues talking about why professional learning was important to paraprofessionals. We'd like to hear from you. You can answer in the chat or feel free to come off mute. Why do you believe professional learning is important to your role as a paraprofessional? It's true, there's always something new to learn about this job. So continuing your professional learning and your professional development will continue to help you to continue to change and evolve. Always new things to learn. We can always keep learning. Thank you for your answers.
All right, so if there's any questions that arise during our training, feel free to drop them in the chat. You can come off of mute and ask them. If not, we do have a parking lot, which is a Google form I'm going to be dropping in the chat right now for participants to fill out. If you prefer, there's also a URL code on the screen. You can take a picture of that with your phone and fill out the Google form there as well. So you do have a couple options. So I just dropped the parking lot Google form in the chat. You can take a screenshot on your phone or just come off of mute and ask a question.
Okay, the next part of our session will go through some important technology tools that you'll need in order to be successful this school year. We want to make sure we're all on the same page and ensure we have a deep understanding of the primary tools that we use as school district employees so that we can do our jobs effectively. If you've already gone through an asynchronous training on tech skills and watched the screencast, some of this might be a review for you. If you haven't gone through that training, then this may be new, and that will be something you'll do this week. In a moment, we're going to engage in learning about our employee portal, which is also known as Hollywood Squares. And we're going to show you how to get into our learning management system, which is PowerSchool, to locate professional development trainings for this year. Again, for some of you, this may be a review. You may be familiar with this information, but for some of you who are maybe new paraprofessionals or new to the role, this may be new information for you. So first, you're going to log into your employee portal. You're going to go to the School District of Philadelphia website, which, as you see here, is philasd.org. Once you get to the school district website, the top of the website will look just like this bottom box here. And all the way on the right, you'll see the word login. And you're going to choose that login from the menu, and that will allow you to log into your employee portal. Once you click login, this screen will appear, and then you're going to need to put in your username and your password. Your username is the first part of your email address, and then your password is chosen by you. If you are a new employee and do not yet have access to school district email or a school district portal, you're going to need the information in the blue box on the right here, which shares with you a link to be able to click on and create an employee account so that you can have access to your employee email and your employee portal moving forward. Once you put your username and your password in and you click login, it will bring you to a screen that looks like this. This is what the school district will call your Hollywood Squares. And Brett is going to show you something or tell you some information about what's on this page.
So once you've successfully logged in, you'll see a page like that looks like this, as Lindsay mentioned. This is your employee portal, or what we call our Hollywood Squares. At the top right-hand side of the corner, you'll see your username. And again, your username is just going to be the first part of your email address. At the top center is your first and last name as they appear on school district records, and your employee ID number, or what we call our EIN. The EIN is also on your school district ID badge. We'll typically use this portion after the dash without all the zeros in front. It's important to remember this number because you're going to be using it for a lot of things like signing in and out of professional development sessions. If you'd like to go ahead and log into your employee portal now, you can do so. We'll be exploring our portal and taking a closer look at PowerSchool in the next couple of slides. And PowerSchool is going to be the new platform that we're using as a district opposed to Cornerstone. So we're going to navigate that as well in the next upcoming slides. So if anybody wants to take a moment to try to navigate this on their own, you can do so now.
You can also feel free to follow along with our slides, and you don't need to log in on your own if you'd rather just kind of watch and follow along. Once you've logged into your employee portal, we're going to access our learning management system, which is called PowerSchool, which, again, as Brett shared, will be used for all of your professional learning needs throughout this school year. On your employee portal homepage, after you log in, you can find the PowerSchool icon by locating the blue P. On my screen, it's all the way down on the right with that big arrow pointing at it. Again, this is the platform you'll use to locate all of your professional learning courses throughout this year. For those of you who are not new to the district, you'll remember that we used Cornerstone in the past. We've now switched over to PowerSchool, so we will now only use PowerSchool in order to register and attend PD sessions.
So once you log into your professional learning, you'll land on a home page that looks like this. This page is going to contain a series of content tabs that can include information such as any training that's required or training that's recommended for you to complete. So this is going to be your new home screen once you log in to PowerSchool from your Hollywood Squares.
As well as the content tab that will be at the top of the screen, your home screen will also include these 4 sections. On the left-hand side, you'll see the welcome message. This box just provides you with important messages or updates from the school district. And on the right-hand side, you'll see 3 boxes over here. The top is My Courses, which is anything that you're currently registered for. The second box is Required Courses, so anything that's been assigned to you for your professional learning based on your role or location. And then finally, the bottom box is Recommended Courses, which are courses that are recommended to you and may be beneficial to you in your role.
One of the most important things you'll need to know is how to search and register for courses in PowerSchool. So you'll need to do this for each district-wide professional development day in order to register for your upcoming PD, receive important logistical information about your PD session, and receive credit hours in PowerSchool. So the first step in searching for the courses is selecting the Courses tab on the black bar on the top of your screen. And you can see that circled in red on the screen here. Once you click on Courses, there should be 2 widgets, which is My Courses and Course Search, which is indicated also with the yellow arrows on the screen. My Courses provides you with a list of learning opportunities for which you're currently registered for. And Course Search allows you to search the course catalog in PowerSchool using keywords, the title of the course or section, or course tags. So for instance, the subject, grade level, topic, etc.
Easiest way to search for a course is use the course search widget, excuse me, as Brett just went through. So you can type something into that field. So you'll see in the screen next to the green arrow, so by simply typing paraprofessional in that search field, you'll be able to come up with a list of courses that are either required or recommended for you as a paraprofessional.
So you should see a course titled Paraprofessionals Roles and Responsibilities pop up. And once you see this, you can click on the caret on the left-hand side to reveal the course information. And the caret is that little arrow that's indicated with the larger green arrow on your screen. And then you're going to click on the play button on the left-hand side, or I'm sorry, the caret on the left-hand side for your desired course.
Once you click the caret, you should then see various sections pop up for that course, and you can register for any of the sections that are available to you. Please don't register for anything right now, but at this point in time, you've probably registered for all of the courses that are required at this time, or you may have been automatically registered if you're attending some other kinds of trainings. This is just to show you what you'll do next time as we log in and register for professional development trainings. When registration is open, you should be able to see a blue box, which is next to that green arrow on your screen. And you would click on that blue box that says register in order to register for a specific session.
And once you click register, you'll be coming to this new window. And then you'll see another screen with the next button at the bottom right-hand corner of the window. And once you see that next button in blue, you're going to want to click that to get to your next screen.
Click that next button, and then you'll be brought to a finalizing a registration screen, and you will click on that final blue register button on your screen.
So once you've hit that register button, you'll receive a green box as indicated on your screen. That is confirmed your registration. And it will also indicate the PD course that you've registered for. So in this example, it was for course 149, Restorative Conversations.
We're going to give you just 2 minutes now to explore PowerSchool and to take a look at some of the sections that we just shared in our slides. So you can go ahead and log into your Hollywood Squares, find that blue P for PowerSchool, and be able to kind of just click around and experience what PowerSchool looks like, get used to the system. And we'll resume once our 2-minute timer is up. Okay, now that we've shared some logistical information around how to access professional learning courses, we're going to shift into the core content for today's training. The previous slides presented information about district-wide responsibilities for staff members. The next portion of our training will focus on role-specific responsibilities of paraprofessionals. Let's take a moment to unpack the question at the top of the page. What is a paraprofessional? Para is the Greek word for alongside of. So just like paramedics work alongside doctors and paralegals work aside and assist lawyers, paraeducators work alongside teachers. We know that many terms have been used interchangeably to refer to a paraprofessional. Some of these include paraeducators, classroom assistants, instructional aides, educational assistants, or maybe just para for short. Regardless of the term that we use, the position of a paraprofessional is legally defined as someone to assist in the provision of special education and related services to children with disabilities. While the terms vary widely, we know that paraprofessionals are the heart of our classrooms and schools. As I mentioned on the previous slide, there are a few terms that we use interchangeably in the district and in today's session. Please note that when you're hired, the position you're hired for is referred to as a special education assistant, and this role contains both the role of a classroom assistant and a one-to-one assistant. Though you may serve as a one-to-one assistant for a period of time assigned to a specific student receiving special education services, it is possible that your role may change to a classroom assistant and vice versa. The roles can change depending on where the need arises within the school. So on the left, the classroom assistant assists special education teachers and are assigned to programs for students with disabilities, no one specific student in mind. Whereas on the right, a one-to-one assistant is assigned to one specific student to manage behaviors, equipment, or academic challenges that may impact the learning of that child. Regardless of whether you're assigned as a classroom assistant or a one-to-one assistant, the essential components of your role remain the same. We define the paraprofessional as someone who will help support, someone who will assist, and someone who will report and record data as needed.
So when we're talking about roles, it's important to establish role clarity. So if we look at this chart, we can see we have clearly defined the teacher and paraprofessional role. However, there are similarities between both. While the teacher is the leader of the class and the paraprofessional is the support, both roles center their attention on students. Though paraprofessionals can facilitate small group or individual instruction, it's important to remember that teachers will be expected to plan and introduce the instruction. Additionally, while paraprofessionals assist in data collection process and implementation of educational and behavioral progress plans, the teacher is the one who creates, writes, and monitors these documents. So as we can see from our chart, some of the responsibilities and roles for the teacher, you'll have the leader of the class. They plan and deliver the lessons. They'll communicate with the special education assistant. They'll be responsible for writing IEPs, progress reports, and behavior plans. Special education assistant roles, some of them are listed on the right-hand side, such as supporting the class and the teacher, facilitating small groups for reviewing instructions or activities, and communication with the teacher is big. Finally, we're going to have similarities between both, listed in the middle, where we're working collaboratively with one another, creating and maintaining a welcoming and positive learning environment for students, communication, and also following policies concerning confidentiality, security, and safety, which we will get into a little bit later in this training. So each classroom looks a little bit different, as I'm sure some of our veteran paraprofessionals know. And we often hear about the concept of co-teaching. We know that paraprofessionals generally do not introduce or teach new content. So supporting as a paraprofessional looks a bit different than the traditional co-teaching models built for the general education teacher and special education teacher. So here are some co-supporting models adapted specifically from classroom teams that include a paraprofessional. So the first one is one teach and one observe. And while the teacher is giving the lesson, the paraprofessional may take data on student performance or behavior. One teach, one support. While the teacher is giving the lesson, you could be circulating to assist the entire class by bringing students back to focus or to help answer any questions that may arise. One teach, one make multisensory. Paraprofessionals are a great tool to create more access points to materials. So this again can look like acting out or drawing an action while the teacher is reading a book or displaying visual cues or manipulatives to support the teacher's directions. Or finally, station facilitation. Paraprofessionals can run small groups for students in reviewing or reinforcing content, but there should be clear instructions provided by the teacher through a lesson plan or task card that includes the objectives, instructional methods, and guidance on any accommodations or modifications. So we're asking if you're a returning paraprofessional. We'd love to hear from you about your experience and what models you've used in your past. If you can take a moment and write in the chat any or all models that you've implemented or any new ones you may have implemented in the classrooms you worked on, we'd appreciate to hear from you. Absolutely. A lot of different names for paraprofessional teachers aide, teacher assistant, and providing instruction and non-instruction services to students. There are many instances too where there'll be discussions on appropriate social skills, so it's not always academic. It's good to keep in mind. And great, Kay Bryant performed all 4 of the co-support roles over the years. Wonderful. And if you haven't tried any of these co-support models within the classroom you worked on, we definitely encourage you to bring them to your teacher that you're going to be working with for the school year and try them out. So we want to emphasize that while the role of the teacher is to be the driving force behind the instruction, meaning he or she is conducting all of the planning and the direction of the student learning, all classroom team members are responsible to implement the instruction. So both of these roles share the responsibility of helping our students learn and achieve.
We can support our students academically, socially, and behaviorally. Let's first take a look at how we can support students academically. The cycle outlined on the slide in front of you highlights the point we just spoke about, where the teacher is the driving force behind the planning. He or she develops the plan and then models the instructional strategy. As you carry out your role, you and the teacher can have ongoing collaboration with each other and provide each other with feedback. It's important for you to communicate with the teacher regarding student performance and to communicate with the teacher about your own performance. If you're unsure about something or would like further clarification, do not be afraid to ask. The insight and feedback that you provide to one another will help to strengthen the collaboration in your classroom and lead the students in your classroom towards success. While academic supports are one of the main focal points of student support, paraprofessionals are also in the best position to provide social supports throughout the school day. It's easy for students with disabilities to become isolated from their peers, especially when it comes to certain activities. We all understand the importance of belonging and friendship, but the benefits of promoting independence and interdependence with peers are countless. Friendships are formed by having shared experiences and positive interactions. Friendships are vital to our lives and as humans. Here are 5 ways that you as paraprofessionals would be able to support students socially. Number 1, physical proximity. Although some students may need their paraprofessional close by, you may not need to sit directly next to them. If you need to sit closely, perhaps try sitting behind them instead of in between them and another peer. Or maybe try floating around the area of the classroom near the student. Sorry. Number 2 is keeping students in class. Friendships and relationships occur when students share common experiences. Every time a child is removed from an inclusive classroom, they lose some of the opportunity to interact, socialize, and learn with and from other students. We recognize the need to support some of our students with a break or a walk, but please be mindful of the time that the child is spending outside of the classroom versus inside of the classroom. Number 3, encourage peer support. Some students are very eager to socialize, but are unsure how. If you have a student who is nonverbal, you can support the student with using their communication device in order to be able to ask a friend to join or to play an activity. Number 4, encourage independence and interdependence. If a student can complete a task in your presence without your support, go ahead and let them try it without supervision next time. If a student asks you for help, encourage them maybe to ask a friend first. Try facilitating a conversation between students before answering them directly as an adult. Peers are more likely to interact with other students when they understand the necessary information about each other. And number 5, fade your cues. Fading assistance means actually reducing the type and level of support given to a student in a systematic way. Reducing support promotes independence, interdependence, and interaction with their peers. Get out of the way when a conversation among students has begun. Use the fade away method, keeping your eye on the situation, but allowing the students to engage in that conversation. Fading doesn't mean we disengage, but rather we begin to pass the torch and continue to monitor. Next, we can talk about supporting students behaviorally. Paraprofessionals play an important role in supporting students who exhibit challenging behaviors. It's crucial for staff members to begin building relationships with the children that they're working with and in their classrooms. Observe the student and find out more about his or her interests. Engage with the students and show that you care about their interests. As you begin to engage with the students in a positive way, you begin to develop that relationship. This relationship is built on a foundation of trust, and these relationships will prove to be extremely beneficial for you when you try to prevent, manage, or de-escalate behaviors. Teachers are also working on building relationships with students and identifying the function behind a student's behavior so that they can develop a behavior plan. Once a behavior plan is in place, the paraprofessional can assist with implementation. With an understanding of this information, paraprofessionals can then support the prevention of the behavior. Ask yourself, how can you control or change the environment to prevent the escalation of behavior? Sometimes, even if we try our best to control the environment and prevent behaviors, some challenging behaviors may still exist, but paraprofessionals can then support with de-escalation. When attempting to de-escalate a situation, remember to remain calm, use a low tone of voice, listen and validate the student's feelings, but offer clear choices and consequences. During this time, there should be constant communication occurring between you and the classroom teacher regarding that student's behavior so that you're all on the same page and can address the needs as they continue to arise within your classroom.
So let's take a look at defining our roles. So often a paraprofessional acts as an assistant to teachers in the special education classroom. Throughout the day, many tasks are completed to support students on the fly. So in order to ensure that teachers, paraprofessionals, administrators, and students understand the role of each person on the team, these roles should be defined up front. And this helps avoid any conflicts and buildups and build up front communication so teams working together in harmony can focus on the student. So if we take a look at the screen, you can ask yourself these questions to yourself. What's my job? What's not my job? And whose job is it? And whether we're a new or experienced paraprofessional, it's important to really define these roles with your classroom teacher so that there are clear expectations on whose role is what within the classroom, so everybody's supporting the students at hand. All right, so we're going to apply the knowledge we just learned regarding the various roles of classroom team members and participate in a quick trivia game. We will ask ourselves whose role is it and answer the questions on each slide by typing the correct letter in the chat. The letter corresponds to the first letter of the word that is your answer choice. So if you believe the answer is teacher, you would type T in the chat. If you think it's paraprofessional, you would type P, and for both, you would type B. So let's get started here. So whose role is it anyway? To introduce a new lesson, do you think that's teacher, paraprofessional, or both? All right, seeing a lot of T's in the chat, and that is correct. A teacher should always introduce a new lesson. A paraprofessional should not be responsible for introducing and teaching new content to students, although they will be able to teach reinforcement lessons. So let's take a look at this one. So we have following a student when he or she leaves without permission, teacher, paraprofessional, or both. So I do see quite a few B's, P's, T's. So this one could really be P or B. So often it's common for the paraprofessional to follow the student who leaves the room. However, all situations can be circumstantial, so it really does depend on various factors. The student may be responding better to one staff member than the other. If a student is moving at a fast pace and the teacher is closest to the door, it may make sense for them to follow. So there's a lot of variables to this question, but typically it would be P or B. All right, so what about meeting with parents and guardians? All right, seeing lots of T's, couple B's in the chat. The answer is T for teacher. So paraprofessionals should refrain from communicating with student family members. If a paraprofessional is going to discuss a student with the parent, the teacher should be present. The teacher is always the person responsible for the student. So paraprofessionals assist in this responsibility. All right, what about collecting student data? Teacher, paraprofessional, or both? Absolutely, seeing a lot of B's in there. It is both the teacher and paraprofessional's role to collect student data. The teacher can provide the direction to the paraprofessional with regards to the data that is being collected and the certain methods of data collection. However, there's going to be multiple opportunities throughout the day where both team members can be collecting data for specific students. All right, what about assisting with daily living skills, including feeding, grooming, toileting, and dressing? All right, so I see some P's and B's in the chat. The answer is paraprofessional. So while the teacher can, of course, assist with these responsibilities, the teacher should continue to implement instruction to other students whenever it is possible. And these responsibilities are pulled directly from the job description of the special education assistant, which we will be sharing with the group later on in this presentation.
Great job with the role activity. We're now going to take a 10-minute break before we get into the next portion of our training for today. Please feel free to use this time to go to the bathroom, get a drink, make a phone call, whatever you need. Please don't log out of the Zoom. We ask that you just maybe turn yourself on mute, turn your camera off. We're going to return when this timer goes off in just 10 minutes. Okay, welcome back. We're going to get started on this next section of our training. We're going to take a look at some of the responsibilities associated with the role of paraprofessionals. These come directly from the job description, which again, we'll talk about shortly. Take a look at the responsibilities on your screen. Again, these are just some of the examples of the responsibilities of a paraprofessional. Record and report data, adapt activities, implement IEP goals, assist with daily living skills, help develop social skills, and assist with routines and transitions. Now I want you to take a look at this photo on the screen. What do you notice right away? And if you could type that in the chat for us. What do you notice right away looking at this photo? Yeah, right away you're noticing that the adults are on their phones and everyone is kind of like doing their own thing. They're not paying attention to the other people, even though they're sitting so closely together. All involved in their own thing, right? This photo is from a collection by a photographer, and the collection is called Removed. In this collection, the photographer acknowledged that we live in a time where technology is constantly developing, and it's proven to be very helpful for us in many ways. However, he recognizes that technology has removed us from many social interactions. Phones have such a powerful message to the people we're interacting with. When we have our phone out while engaging with someone else, it signals that we're not fully present, we're not listening, we're not there with them. Look again at this photo. All of the family is in the kitchen. They're all in the same space, some seated even all together at the table. A typical scenario that may be potential for lots of engagement and lots of positive social interaction. However, since everyone has their phones and their activities out, it completely lacks all of that social interaction. Think about how this photo then relates to the work we do in our classrooms. How does this photo kind of relate to the work we do in our classrooms? If you could type that in the chat for us, we appreciate it. You're correct. We hope it does not, Miss Jill. It's important to know that whether a teacher or a paraprofessional, the students in our classrooms need our undivided attention. If we look back at some of the responsibilities from the previous slide, things like assisting with routines, or implementing IEP goals, collecting data, helping students with daily living skills, those are things that we need to be fully present and engaged for in order to accomplish. Just like this family in the kitchen where there's potential for such meaningful interaction and social conversation, a classroom environment is a place where students can be successful as long as every member is engaged in that work. It's important for us to be aware of our use of technology while we're in our classroom spaces and in engaging our students in instruction and dialogue outside of maybe using a Chromebook or for us as adults using our phone. We want to make sure that we're working collaboratively within the classroom and with the teacher to create a learning space that promotes engagement and social interaction rather than people always staring at screens. As we mentioned on the previous slide, we recognize that there are many advantages of technology and its use in the classroom. However, we're also aware that there's a negative impact of technology, especially cell phone use for kids and adults. As a reminder, taking photos or videos of students without parent or guardian permission is not acceptable and is a direct violation of the SDP Code of Conduct. It's extremely important to refrain from communicating with students' families, and oftentimes things we say, sometimes via messaging, can be misunderstood or misinterpreted by the person we've sent it to, and we can get ourselves into some sticky situations. Phones should not be visible while you're in the classroom working with students. Again, we want everybody as present and engaged as possible to be able to engage our students and our learners. As we mentioned before, everyone needs to be present, and cell phones are highly desirable for students. One way to reduce challenging behaviors is to control the environment, limit access to highly desired technology, think out of sight, out of mind.
So how do we engage with our students? What does it look like? There are various different ways we can engage and facilitate meaningful interactions with our students that promote academic, social, and behavior success. So we have 3 listed on the screen here. The first is to ensure proximity or space and materials. So you want to make sure you're seated appropriately and according to the student's needs. Do you need to be very close to the student, or can you give some distance? Encourage the students to sit next to their peers. Ensure that students have access to their device if they have a communication device. Ensure that students have access to all the necessary materials needed for the instruction, maybe a Chromebook, pencil, paper, whatever it may be. Encourage the students and peers to share materials and work together. Find a balance between too close and too far removed. Next, we have encourage academic and social interactions. You want to encourage peers to interact with the student, encourage the student to interact with their peers, provide information and support, present content and facilitate instruction, redirect interactions to the student. Finally, we have monitor and praise student and peers. You can do this by collecting data while working with students, monitor and communicate with teacher regarding the progress of students, praise and encourage the student, praise the student and peers for working together, providing feedback or suggestions for future interactions, and provide explanations when needed. So another way we can engage with our students is providing them with prompts. When we're providing prompts with our students, we're encouraging a desired response. And while many times it's necessary to provide prompts for our students, we want to remember that the goal of providing prompts is to move students forward toward progress and independence. It's not intended to hinder or set them back. So the visual on the screen you see shows the hierarchy of prompts, starting with the most intrusive or dependent prompt on the bottom, leading to the least intrusive prompt at the top, essentially allowing the student to achieve independence. As paraprofessionals, you'll use a lot of modeling, gestures, verbal and visual prompts with students. However, it's important to always keep in mind how the student is progressing with a skill or with a task. As students begin to make progress, we want to begin fading our prompts, whether it's the number of prompts or the type of prompt. So again, on the screen, you can see at the bottom, which is going to be the most intrusive, is a physical, full physical, which could be hand over hand. Then moving up, you'll have partial physical, modeling, gestural, verbal, and then the most independent would be visual. So we're going to watch a short video now that Lindsay is going to play about washing our hands. So while we're watching this video, I want you to observe the various types of prompts that the teacher provides to the student. So for example, do you see the pair providing visual supports? Does the pair provide any verbal prompts? Does the pair make any gestures towards something to encourage a response from the student? Is there any modeling? Any phrases such as do this or do that? So let's take a minute to watch and then just think of some of these prompting strategies in your head. And then we're going to share out at the end of the video.
First wash hands, then eat. Push. Good job. On. Turn on water. Riley, do this. Good girl. Washing hands. What are you doing? Washing hands. Turn off. Turn off.
Paper towel.
Paper towel.
Paper towel.
Mm-hmm.
Paper towel.
Do this. Chip, check schedule.
All right, so what are some prompts that you saw in that video? You can put them in the chat now. Absolutely, there was quite a few verbal prompts from the teacher or paraprofessional. Yep, pointing to the first, the vision board to redirect attention. So there were some gestures being used. Praise, absolutely, praising for a job well done. A lot of verbal prompts. Excellent. Anything else anybody saw? Yep, some modeling showing them how to rub their hands together while they were washing their hands. Absolutely, being very explicit in why they have to wash their hands. Absolutely, all great. So as we can see, there's a lot of different opportunities for different prompts to be using with students. So again, you can reference that hierarchy of prompts to be using, but just to keep in mind that, again, the most dependent prompts would be there at the bottom and working our way up to the most independent at the top. All right, so let's stop, think and share for a minute. So think about the students that you currently support or students you may have supported in the past. What prompts have you used with your learners? And again, you can put these in the chat. Praise is a big one, absolutely. Encouragement. Yeah, verbal praise. Vision boards are great. Yep, high fives, good encouragement. Token economy, absolutely, especially if you're maybe working in an autistic support classroom, to maybe curb some problematic behaviors. Great term to use. Excellent. So lots of different prompts taking place.
While prompting is an important support for our students, we want to make sure that we're working towards fading those supports over time. The goal for our students is to achieve independence. If we don't begin to fade those supports over time and move towards those less intrusive prompts, then we're causing a disservice to our students. We may enable the students to form an unnecessary dependence on adults or others. We could be interfering with peer interactions or limiting their access to instruction. We need to provide students with opportunities to practice their independence, and we can't just assume that they won't be able to do something. Effective fading of support results in positive outcomes like increased participation and engagement in class activities, increased academic learning, increased socialization with peers, and then decreasing those challenging behaviors. It's important to note that when we fade, while we encourage fading supports, we're not saying we totally disengage or go away. In fact, we're able to recognize when and how we fade our supports. We're most engaged and aware with our jobs. Let's share now some examples. Again, we're going to share our responses in the chat. Let's think about our roles as paraprofessionals. This slide says assisting students with class routines and in transitioning from one activity to another. What do these responsibilities look like in your classrooms? Where have you seen this happen before? If you could share that in the chat with us. Yeah, using schedules or even visuals to be able to support students to move from one activity to another throughout their day. Moving in between groups and providing that support for students to get from one group to the next. And awesome, verbal cues or visual schedules to be able to support students in that way. Great, thanks for sharing. Let's look at another example. How about supporting students with emotional or behavioral concerns and assisting in developing appropriate social skills. Where have you seen this happening, or some examples you've seen in your work in our schools? Yeah, modeling the appropriate behavior. Thank you. Respecting turn taking. I love that.
Right, what about monitoring and assisting students in educational and community settings? So again, I know a lot of us go out for CBI instruction. So what are some ways to engage students here? Absolutely, modeling again, maybe an expectation chart to provide to the student ahead of time. Reward system, absolutely. Yep, always making sure that we're hitting on the student's interests when developing lessons or creating class instruction. Setting expectations and holding students accountable, absolutely. Positive and rewarding positive behavior, 100%. What about assisting students with the use of mobility and or weight-bearing equipment such as leg braces, walkers, standers, etc.? Yep, kindness always goes a long way to build trust with students, 100%. Yep, we can definitely rely on our related service providers. If you do have physical therapists or PTs in your classroom, definitely rely on them for support in situations like this. This situation may require more of a hands-on approach, so you may need to use some physical interaction to help students get maybe into a gait trainer or a walker or some type of equipment. So this one might be a little bit more hands-on in the event that students can't do it independently. Yep, and absolutely reassuring students about their potential, 100%. All right, and what about assisting students with all aspects of toileting, which may include lifting on and off the toilet, diapering, and the use of changing tables or mats? So what are some prompts we've used in the past or you may use moving forward? Yep, picture cards, great. Again, visual cues and models. Yep, verbally giving a step-by-step. Routines are huge for all of our students. And consistency, 100%. And then what about records and reports appropriate data? How are some ways you've prompted this or done this in some of the classrooms you've worked in the past? Yep, absolutely, through observations with the student. Yeah, there might be times where you might have to work one-to-one with the student to work on specific IEP goals or behavior goals to provide to the teacher. Communication with the teacher is absolutely essential just to make sure you're both on the same page on how to collect the data, what data sheets you're using, reporting with the whole team. Absolutely. All great examples. All right, what about assists in the management and shaping of student behavioral techniques and or positive reinforcement strategies? Oh, I do love that use of clipboards throughout the day to enter data later. That's great. So everybody has access to it. There may be times when you see something that the teacher might not see or vice versa. So just giving everybody the opportunity to do that. Wonderful use of data collection there. Anything else about shaping the student behavior techniques or positive reinforcement strategies? Absolutely, acknowledgement is huge, whether it's good or bad behaviors, especially if we're trying to provide a replacement behavior. We want to make sure that we're providing positive praise and encouragement. Yep, absolutely. Respect goes a long way. Working one-on-one with the student, absolutely. Written documentation, very important. I'm sure we all know. I'm sure we've heard it say, if you don't write it down, it didn't happen. So always, when in doubt, always write everything down. Keep a collection, a log of it to provide to your teacher. Excellent job.
Before we move on from discussing the roles and responsibilities of a paraprofessional, we want to ensure that we address a responsibility that we all share as school district employees. We are all mandated reporters. Mandated reporters are people who come into contact with children as part of their employment, practice of their profession, and sometimes as volunteers in child serving programs. Therefore, all school employees, regardless of their position, are mandated reporters. So what steps do we take? We make sure that the child's immediate needs are met. We automatically make the report, and then we can inform our principal. You can make a child line report by either using the phone number that you see at the bottom of your screen, or you can report online by using that web address there at the bottom. Remember, it's not our job to try and confirm suspicions or seek evidence to support suspicions. Our job is to report directly to DHS and allow them to investigate. If a child confides in you, please listen to them, reassure them, remain calm and collected, provide immediate help if that's necessary to ensure the child's safety. Do not promise the child that you won't tell anyone, as you are required as a School District of Philadelphia employee to report as a mandated reporter. If a child shares information with you, it's important not to share that information with their alleged abuser. We must inform all suspected child abuse through the child line reporting system, again, through the phone number or the web link at the bottom of your screen. And you can report suspected abuse or neglect of children 24 hours a day. This is an extremely important responsibility as district staff members and can't be something that's overlooked.
So now that we've distinguished between the roles of the teacher and the paraprofessional and took a closer look into the responsibilities of a paraprofessional, we're now going to be discussing the concept of working as a team in the next couple of slides. So we're going to watch another video clip from Finding Nemo here. And during this video, I just want people to observe how the individuals in the film are working together as a team. And then we're going to discuss it in a second once this video clip is over.
Oh, hey, look out!
I'm sorry. Just trying to get home. Nemo? Nemo?
Nemo's alive!
Dory? Nemo! Nemo! I'm coming, Nemo! Nemo! Oh, thank goodness. It's all right, son. It's gonna be okay.
Turn around! You're going the wrong way!
Look out! It's the only way we can save Dory! I can do this!
You're right. I know you can.
Lucky Finn!
Now go! Hurry!
Tell all the fish to swim now!
Well, you heard my son? Come on!
Dory, you have to tell everybody to
Swim down together! You understand what I'm saying to you? Swim down!
Everybody swim down! Come on, you have to swim down! Swim down, okay?
Down! Swim down! Swim down! Swim down! Don't give up! Keep swimming! Just keep swimming! That's it!
It's working!
Just keep swimming! Keep swimming!
Come on, Dad!
You're doing great, son!
That's my dad!
Come on, let's get to the bottom! Keep swimming!
Keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Almost there! Keep swimming!
Absolutely. So somebody in the chat's a great video on teamwork. Absolutely. So as we can see from the screen here and the acronym of team, together everyone achieves more. So take a moment and think about this small clip we just watched and tell us some things that were necessary components for the team that needed to occur for the plan to work out. So you can take a moment and write that in the chat. Yep, working together for a common goal. Absolutely. Communication was huge. Listening, absolutely. Listening, sometimes that can be really difficult, right? But really listening to one another, working together, absolutely. Trust is a big one. Yeah, I love that. If you keep trying, anything's possible, especially if you have a great team on your side, 100%. Yep, accuracy. Yes, and putting our differences aside to work together, focusing. All super important aspects. So we did go through quite a bit of these and your responses, so thank you so much for participating. So what needed to happen? Cooperations, collaboration, patience, respect, trust, open mind, communication, and having a common goal. Absolutely, not giving up till the task is done. So a student's team can consist of many individuals, including the roles you see on your screen. So that can be your speech and language therapist, family members, special education teachers, you yourself as the paras, school psychologists, caseworkers. So there's roles and responsibilities of school staff among schools, district, and states, but the team must come together for the common goal of student growth. There needs to be effective communication and understanding of logistics of what will go into supporting the student. The most important thing to remember is communication. Communication with everyone involved is the best way to make sure the student is meeting their goals. Once you've met with the school team, the family, and the student, you'll be able to have a better idea of what supports to provide the student. While teams can get pretty large, you as a paraprofessional are likely to be the staff member who sees the student the most. So it's crucial to work effectively as part of the classroom team and to remember that communication is key. All right, so now we're going to discuss a little bit about staying in our lane. So as we saw in the previous slide, there could be many people involved in a student's team. So it's important that each individual remember to stay in his or her lane according to their role. So consider the two for a moment. So what would happen if a dentist and a dental hygienist didn't stay in their lane? What about an ER doctor and a nursing staff? As we know, dentists and hygienists work together to make beautiful smiles. The hygienist cleans the teeth, takes x-rays, while the dentist has specialized in services allowing him or her to check for cavities or displacement of growing teeth. Each offers their own part of an outcome that is beneficial to the patient. And then thinking about the ER doctor and the nurse, they both perform different tasks in each of their roles. The ER doctor is specifically trained in identifying, diagnosing, and offering treatment, while the nursing staff keeps the patient comfortable, starts paperwork, takes vials. These tasks do not require the level of expertise of the doctor, but without the nursing staff, the doctor could not focus specifically on what he or she is trained to do. Each serves as a critical and important role. The main idea is to notice that each person on the team is valuable and shares in a common goal. With a member of the team missing, the outcome would not be the same. And this, of course, is the same between the teacher and paraprofessional. In order to be a team, roles must be defined, and people in the team must understand what those roles are, how to fulfill them, and how to ensure that they're completed as expected by each team member.
Though it's important to stay in your lane, we want to ensure that we're communicating and collaborating with one another. Here are some things that should be shared and discussed with your classroom teacher at the beginning of the school year that can set your team up for success. You should communicate your strengths, discuss any uncertainties, ask for a schedule to identify the assigned tasks and students at all times throughout the day. Obtain student profiles and IEPs at a glance, which we're going to talk about in just a little while. Ensure you have necessary materials for any small group facilitation or data collection, and then try to establish a weekly check-in with your teacher to be able to continue the communication and collaboration. When we're talking about working as a member of a team, we want to ensure that all of the members are aware of their expectations. So this goes both ways. It's important for us to understand what administration expects of us as paraprofessionals. There are certain expectations that paraprofessionals can have for administration that will help you to carry out your responsibilities and fulfill your role to the best of your ability. Things that administrators expect of paraprofessionals include having a good attitude and desire to work with children, being dependable in promptness and attendance, performing non-instructional duties, believing that a teacher and a paraprofessional should work as a team, assisting in the instructional process, helping and assisting, and participating in necessary trainings to address professional learning needs. Paraprofessionals then expect something from administrators. Paraprofessionals expect from administrators that they accept and acknowledge the value of their role. Paraprofessionals believe or expect that administrators believe that the teacher and the para work together as a team, provide educational leadership, provide support when working with students and managing behaviors, informing you of trainings and opportunities and encouraging you to continue your learning, accepting you as part of the school staff, giving honest feedback, offering both praise and suggestions for improvement, and respecting your individuality and recognizing your talents that you bring to the team.
So we've talked a lot about today regarding the roles and responsibilities of paraprofessionals. So in the next couple slides, we're going to take some time to read through two scenarios and apply the knowledge we acquired today to identify information such as team members, specific responsibilities for each staff member, and some key components of teamwork.
Let's take some time to read through this scenario. I'll read it aloud. You can follow along on the screen. Josiah is a third grade student diagnosed with autism who receives special education services in an autistic support classroom. His teacher, Miss Jones, works closely with her classroom staff, including the classroom assistant, Miss Rhodes, and Josiah's one-to-one assistant, Mr. Smith. The three staff members meet regularly to discuss Josiah's behaviors, his progress towards his IEP goals, and the plan for data collection. Miss Jones has just introduced the concept of double-digit addition to Josiah. After observing Miss Jones model a lesson with Josiah using discrete trial training, both Miss Rhodes and Mr. Smith have designated times to work with Josiah throughout the day to reinforce this math skill. Mr. Smith has been so pleased with Josiah's progress that he decided to call Josiah's mom and let her know that he would be giving Josiah a cupcake reward the following day. However, Mr. Smith did not communicate this to Miss Jones. Before going to his lunch break, Mr. Smith gave Josiah the cupcake, but Miss Jones removed it, causing Josiah to engage in physically aggressive behaviors. When Mr. Smith returned, he and Miss Jones had a conversation to better understand the situation. At the end of the day, Miss Rhodes assisted the students with the dismissal routine and led them to the buses to go home. Okay, so first I'm going to ask you to identify who are the individuals in this classroom team. You can drop them in the chat for us. The student, Josiah, his teacher, the assistant, there's a one-to-one. Now that we've identified who those people are on the team, let's talk about the responsibilities of each of those people. What was the main responsibility of the teacher, Miss Jones? Right, it's Miss Jones's responsibility to teach the lesson. She's responsible for delivering that new instruction. She's also has a responsibility for communication among the team. How about the classroom assistant and the one-to-one? What are some of their responsibilities in this scenario? They're providing the carry through, right? So the teacher taught the new lesson and they're kind of doing the follow-up. They're reporting progress, collecting data, watching the child while they get their work done, supporting the student through engaging with that task that the teacher introduced. Yes, they communicated that they wanted to give their student a reward. That was part of their responsibility. And that's something that went wrong in this situation. Did everyone in this situation stay in his or her own lane? Yeah, I see some no's in the chat. As you heard in the scenario, Mr. Smith communicated with the parent without making the teacher aware. Communication with families, as you remember from the beginning of our slides, is the main responsibility of the teacher. And while Mr. Smith was happy for Josiah's progress and he wanted to share that with his family, he could have done that and looped the teacher into that as well and discussing the plan for the reward. He didn't stay in that lane in that one instance, but it seems like this classroom team works pretty well together for the most part. What are some things, what are the teamwork components that we talked about earlier that we heard through this scenario? Communication is a big one. I think we also heard a little bit about collaboration among the team members, right? They all kind of work together with that common goal. Great.
All right, so let's take a look at scenario number 2. Miss Bailey has worked in a life skills support classroom for the past few years as a classroom assistant. She and the teacher, Mrs. Poole, both want what's best for the student and want them to make progress. Miss Bailey has built strong relationships with each of the students and encourages appropriate peer interaction whenever possible. She loves facilitating a small reading and math group each day and provides Mrs. Poole with data that when students complete assigned workbook pages. During one group session, Miss Bailey decided that the students had made significant progress and they were ready to skip to the next section in the math textbook. The students had not been introduced to the fractions yet, but she began teaching them lesson 18, even though Mrs. Poole had assigned lesson 15. During lunch, she assists her students as they make their way through the lunch line by providing them with visual supports, modeling how to get a tray and to move through the line and pointing to where the food items should be placed on the tray. When they return to the classroom, one of the students needs to use the toilet and have his pamper changed. Miss Bailey interrupts Mrs. Poole's lesson and tells her that she will stay with the students while Mrs. Poole takes the student to the bathroom. All right, so let's first determine who are the individuals in this classroom team and what are each of their roles. Again, you can put those in the chat. Right, so we do have the teacher, Mrs. Poole, and the classroom assistant, Miss Bailey. So now that we've identified each of the members of this scenario, what was the main responsibility of the teacher, Mrs. Poole? All right, so we have modeling the lesson, taking data, lesson planning. Absolutely. So she'll also be planning and developing the lesson and the instruction as stated, and providing instruction to the class. Communication, always huge. How about the classroom assistant, Miss Bailey? What were some of her responsibilities in the scenario? What were some of her tasks that she had completed? Yep, helping with lunch, transition. Absolutely. We have modeling behavior, helping students develop social skills. She loved small group facilitation for reading and math. Follow the teacher's lesson planning, assisting with transition, going to the lunchroom. And there was a various prompting that she used, such as visual supports, modeling, pointing. And we saw a little bit about this in the chat. So what were some things that went wrong in the scenario? Do we think everybody stayed in their lane? Absolutely skipping lessons. So Miss Bailey went ahead to lesson 18 when only lesson 15 was assigned. So again, not introducing new material to students. Definitely a lack of communication. Absolutely, interruption. So Miss Bailey did interrupt Mrs. Poole's lesson, causing the instruction to stop so that she could take the student to the bathroom to change. Just a reminder, if instruction is happening, we should never interrupt or cause that to stop if we don't have to. So in this case, Miss Bailey should have taken the student to the bathroom, as it's a job requirement for paraprofessionals to assist with toileting needs while Mrs. Poole was in the middle of instruction. So although Miss Bailey did not stay in her lane in that one instance, it did appear that the duo worked well together for the most part. So what are some key teamwork components that we talked about earlier that you observed while reading through the scenario? So some key components could definitely be cooperation, absolutely communicating more, respect and model respect, having a common goal, visual supports, absolutely.
We thank you for your participation in our scenarios. It was a great opportunity for us to apply the knowledge that we acquired or deepened today to these specific situations or activities. As we get closer to wrapping up our first session of the day, we want to share with you this one-stop doc. So there's a QR code on the screen you can scan with a cell phone, or Brett can drop the link into the chat. Take a moment or two to explore this one-stop doc and how it outlines each training date for the school year, along with the titles of the sessions being offered on those days. As trainings occur, the slide decks will then be linked into this document. So this will be important for you to remember for the rest of the school year. That way you can go back and access these slide decks after the trainings actually occur. Any other resources that you need will be also linked in this one-stop document. That way you have everything all in one place. If you have any questions today or moving forward through the school year, you can always email this email address at the bottom of your screen. It was created specifically for all needs and questions related to paraprofessional development for the 24-25 school year. So again, that one-stop doc is either at the QR code or the link is in the chat. And if you want to take a second to either take a picture or jot down that email address, should you have any other questions or need support as the school year goes on. Once again, we thank you for your participation in the first morning session of our training. We have a few minutes now to answer any questions you might have at this time. You can feel free to type your questions in the chat or come off mute and ask them aloud, and Brett and I will do our best to answer them. If you have any questions related to the content from this training earlier, feel free to ask those now.
An attendance form?
The attendance form will be shared at the very end of the training because this goes until 1:15. So we're going to break for lunch in just a minute. The attendance form will be sent later on in the day.
Got it.
If there are no other questions, we are a little bit ahead of schedule, so we'll give you a little bit of additional time here. Lunch is until 11:45, so you can take the time now from now until 11:45 to enjoy your lunch. We ask that you turn your camera off, mute your mic, but don't exit out of this Zoom because we're going to use this exact same link to continue our training in the afternoon. Session 2 will begin promptly at 11:46 a.m. We'll see you back then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We want to welcome you back to part 2 of today's training. This training is an overview of individualized education plans and what you specifically need to know as paraprofessionals. This session is designed to give you an overview of IEPs, or individualized education plans, and how they play a crucial role in supporting our students with special needs. We'll cover what you need to know about the special education process, IEPs, and your role in implementing these IEPs. Let's go ahead and get started. Here is our agenda for this session this afternoon, broken down into 3 parts. In part 1, we'll review the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and special education programs. And our goal for that section will be to develop general knowledge of categories from federal law for students with disabilities.
Part 2, we're going to focus on reviewing of supports and services with the goal to understand the purpose of supports, services, and specially designed instruction provided to students in special education.
And we'll wrap up this session with part 3, which will be application and practice, with a goal to practice implementing different supports as outlined in an IEP.
Again, we have the same parking lot as this morning, so I'm going to drop it in the chat again for everybody's convenience. If not, we do have that QR code on the screen as well. So feel free to take a picture of it and post your questions there. Either or is a way to just have your questions answered.
As we shared today in this session, we'll talk a lot about IEPs. We have a large group of people here, some new and some returning. So we'd like to gauge your level of knowledge at this point. So on your screen, you'll see 4 emoji pictures with a number that corresponds to each emoji. We're asking you to put the number in the chat that corresponds to how you feel about your understanding of IEPs. So you're going to put a 1 in the chat if you have a really good understanding and you're feeling confident. A 2 in the chat if you have some experience but are looking forward to learning more. A 3 in the chat if you feel okay but have some questions. And a 4 in the chat if you're feeling completely confused, lost, or nervous. No wrong answers. Feel free to drop those in the chat for us. Thank you for sharing your answers with us. We saw some of you are feeling confident and many of you have some experience but are looking forward to learning more. If anybody out there is feeling a little nervous and excited to learn more, don't worry, we'll cover hopefully most of your questions in today's session. Okay, so as we shared earlier in the morning session, we're going to talk a little bit about the instructional duties of a special education assistant. Listed on the screen are just some of the roles and responsibilities of a special education assistant as it relates to implementing the IEP. In the earlier training session, we were giving an overview of roles and responsibilities. We're going to talk about the instructional duties now that will be expected as it relates to supporting students with special education needs in our classrooms. You'll see the instructional duties on the left. You will work with students to reinforce instructional objectives and implement IEP goals and objectives. Adapt activities and assignments or materials as directed by the teacher, assist students with classroom routines and in transitioning from one activity or location to the next, and assist in the management and shaping of behavioral techniques and or positive reinforcement strategies. We're also going to share with you a link to the special education job description if you don't already have it. Brett has a link that he can drop in the chat so that you're able to save a copy to your computer or possibly take a picture of it up on your screen so that you have a copy of the job description of a special education assistant.
Now we're going to get into special education and the law in the next couple of slides. And we'll kind of give an overview of what makes students eligible to receive special education and some of the processes that go into making that determination.
Hello and welcome to Teachings in Education, the special education process. Here, we're going to answer the question of how do students get into and out of special education. Now, let's begin with step number 1, screening. Schools must take steps to identify students that may be eligible for special education services. One method of screening is through referrals. States have mandated schools to do a, quote, child find procedure. The next step is the evaluation. Here, the student is assessed in a wide variety of areas related to the suspected disability. These results are used at the eligibility meeting, and the parents have a right for an independent evaluation, and the school must pay for it. Third, eligibility determination. At this stage, school personnel, professionals, and parents analyze the results to determine whether or not a child can receive services. Again, the parents have the right to contest the decision. Now, if a child is eligible, the next step is the IEP meeting. An IEP meeting is scheduled and the parent is invited. At the meeting, they discuss the best possible way to meet the student's needs. After the meeting, the IEP must be written and finalized. The IEP should contain short and long-term goals, strengths and weaknesses, transition planning, present level of academic achievement, and other required components. It's important to know that the IEP is in fact a legal document. The next step is for the school to provide services for the student. The school must follow the written plans in the IEP, as well as ensure the student receive the appropriate accommodations on any type of standardized test. Related services must also be provided. Moving on to number 7, which is to report progress. Progress reports must be sent out as often as non-disabled students. Now, number 8, review of the IEP. The IEP is reviewed at the very least one time a year. The parents are invited to review meetings where the IEP can be amended. The parents also have the right to fight the educational placement of the child. And lastly, re-evaluation of the IEP. The child must be re-evaluated for special education at least once every 3 years. The results of testing will determine if the child continues to receive special education services. It is at this step that many students exit special education. Right now, I would like to say thank you for your time. Hello and welcome.
Give us a second here to get back to our presentation.
All right, so in the chat, what's one thing that you learned about the special education process after watching that video? So you can just put whatever you learned in the chat, or if you feel comfortable, you can jump off of mute. Absolutely. So children do get reevaluated every 3 years. There is a caveat to that. If a student does have an intellectual disability, they'll actually be reevaluated every 2 years. But at the very least, every 3 years, students who do qualify for special education services should have a reevaluation report to determine continuation of special education. Absolutely. So learning how the IEP process works, as you'll see, it is a cycle. So it does start with a referral. So looking at the other question on the screen, what signs might indicate that a student needs to be referred for an evaluation? Sure, they could absolutely have disruptive behaviors that might impede with their learning or the learning of others. Maybe they're struggling with work, whether it's reading, writing, math, developmental delays, poor attention span. Absolutely. So again, this referral will be a team decision. It should be based in data as well. So it's always good to get feedback from the student's teachers, any other staff member that might interact with the student. Look at any of their STAR testing, whether it's reading or math, and to get input even from family members or outside agencies to see if a evaluation is warranted. So all absolutely great examples of when a student might need to be evaluated for special education.
Now we're going to talk a little bit about the law that protects children with disabilities. It's the responsibility of paraprofessionals to be familiar with the principles, standards, and policies that they must follow. IDEA, or the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, is a federal law that ensures students with disabilities have access to a free and appropriate public education, just like their peers. So as you see on the screen, the first bullet point indicates the free and appropriate public education, sometimes referred to as FAPE. It indicates that education and services must be free of cost to the beneficiary. They must be appropriate, so they are tailored and appropriate to the student's needs through an IEP. And they are public, which means they must be provided by public education agencies. IDEA also protects the rights of students and parents, giving them a voice in the educational process, which is that final bullet point, parent and student participation. So parents are active participants in the educational process. Essentially, IDEA is all about making sure every student, regardless of their disability, gets the support that they need to succeed in school.
So who does IDEA protect? IDEA protects students from birth to age 21 who have disabilities that impact their ability to learn in a typical classroom setting. This includes a wide range of conditions such as learning disabilities, speech or language impairments, emotional disturbance, and physical or developmental disabilities. The law ensures that these students receive special education services and support tailored to their individual needs. It also protects the rights of parents, giving them a say in their child's educational plan. Overall, IDEA is there to make these students have equal access to education and the tools they need to thrive. So to qualify, a student must meet two separate criteria under IDEA. They first need to have a documented disability in one of those 13 documented categories covered by IDEA, which we're going to get into in a little bit. And they also will need special education in order to access the general education curriculum. And remember that access is an important term in education. So making learning accessible to kids with disabilities means finding ways to remove their barriers to their learning. And again, this will vary from student to student. So when we think of an IEP, the I stands for individualized. So we know that each child's IEP or plan for learning will look different, and it's going to be based on their individual needs.
As Brett shared, access is an important term, and this means we're making learning accessible to kids with disabilities. We're finding ways to remove the barriers to their learning. So we want you to think about the question that's in the thought bubble on the screen and drop your answers in the chat. What are some barriers to learning that students with disabilities may experience? Or what are some barriers to learning that you have seen or experienced with the students in the schools that you've worked in? Yeah, students not having the ability to access the curriculum because they're struggling with learning to read and they're in an upper grade. And when those children have a hard time reading, you're right, it makes them upset or frustrated. Sometimes they act out behaviorally. There may not be enough one-on-ones. They may have some delays, which prevent them from accessing the general education curriculum in a meaningful way without some supports. Great, let's keep moving.
All right, so let's take a look at confidentiality. So it's the responsibility for all of us to maintain dignity, privacy, and confidentiality of all students with disabilities, families, and school personnel. Confidentiality in special education is extremely important. As a paraprofessional, you'll have access to many things, such as results of formal and informal assessments, IEPs, witness behaviors in classrooms and other settings, academic progress, and perhaps information on family circumstances and family relationships. This information should not be shared outside of the school setting. Here are some helpful hints to keep confidentiality in special education. You want to avoid using any student's name when possible. Suggest any question about a particular student be directed to the teacher or the principal. Always think carefully about where your conversations are occurring. For example, in the staff lunchroom, the cafeteria, the hallway may not be great places to have confidential conversations, as others could mistakenly overhear the conversation. And when in doubt, if you're ever thinking, is this something that should be shared, err on the side of caution and do not share that information. So it's important for us to ask ourselves, what does this mean for me? Ask yourself these 3 questions. What information would I want to discuss with others regarding my own child? What would I like said about myself as a parent? And what would I like said about my family, my values, and my lifestyle? So again, you can just kind of think and ponder about this. If you feel like putting your answers in the chat, you can, but just take a minute to think about these 3 questions to yourself. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of a review here on the next couple of slides. So Cheryl, thank you for sharing. So we're going to be playing a quick review game over some of the slides we just went over. So I'm going to read the slides aloud, and then you can put your answer in the chat once the time comes. So our first answer here is, what must a student have to qualify for special education services under IDEA? We have A, have a documented disability in one of the 13 categories under IDEA. B, use a specific device like a screen reader to access the classroom. Or C, need special education to access the general education classroom. And D, both A and C. All right, seeing a lot of D's in the chat, and that is correct. They do need to meet the 2-prong criteria, which is they need to have a documented disability under one of the 13 categories, and they also will need special education to access the general ed curriculum. So great job. So what things are confidential when working as a paraprofessional? We have special education records, a student's grades, a student's address and birth date, or D, all of the above. All right, lots of D's in the chat, and absolutely all of the above should be kept confidential when working with students. And remember, just to err on the side of caution, if you're not sure if you should be sharing the information, refrain from sharing that information with any individual.
We've said in the past couple slides that in order for students to qualify for special education services, they have to meet the criteria for one of these 13 eligibility categories under IDEA. These 13 categories presented on your screen, you may have heard of some of them and seen many of them in the schools that you've been in. The next few slides following this one will describe the different support types where these students may receive their special education services. We're going to cover the programs where most paraprofessionals provide support, but we may not cover all of the support types because many of you are serving in many different capacities within our schools. The support types provide the purposes and the intent of students' needs identified in their IEP. Teams determine the support that is most appropriate for a student to be successful. Determination is also individualized for every student, but this general understanding will help you to approach the learners in your classroom and be able to help you to maximize your support. The first support type we're going to talk about is autistic support. In an autistic support classroom, services help with verbal and nonverbal communication, social skills, responding to changes in the environment or routine, and providing support for positive behavior. As you may know, autism involves difficulties in social communication, like having trouble understanding others, keeping conversations going, and making friends. People with autism might also want to engage in repetitive behaviors like repeating actions or sticking to strict routines, and may have strong interest in specific topics. They can also be very sensitive to sounds, lights, or textures, reacting more or less than others might. The next support type is emotional support. In emotional support, you'll see services for students with a disability who require support primarily in the areas of social or emotional skills development or functional behavior. An emotional behavior disability is a condition where a person struggles to control their emotions and behavior in ways that impact their daily life and their relationships. They may have intense feelings like anger or sadness and find it hard to cope with stress and frustration. These challenges often affect their ability to learn, interact with others, and participate in typical activities at school or at home. Next is life skills support. In life skills support, you'll see services for students with a disability who require support primarily in the areas of academic, functional, or vocational skills necessary for independent living. Students in a life skills setting may have an intellectual disability, which is characterized by significant limitations in their intellectual functioning, such as difficulties with learning, reasoning, and problem solving. This impacts their everyday adaptive behaviors. These challenges affect a person's ability to acquire new information, communicate effectively, and perform daily tasks independently. Individuals with intellectual disabilities often require specialized supports and interventions to enhance their learning and life skills. Next, let's discuss multiple disabilities. In a multiple disability setting, you'll see services for students with more than one disability resulting in severe impairment, requiring services primarily in the areas of academic, functional, or vocational skills necessary for independent living. The multiple disability support programs are offered to students in grades K to 12 who are diagnosed with 2 or more disabilities, such as an intellectual disability and an orthopedic impairment. Some students may have significant medical needs and sensory impairments.
So we just had an overview of support types across the district. So at this time, if you can just put in the chat what type of classroom you're going to be working in this school year, you can do so. If you don't know, just let us know what type of classroom you've worked in the past. All right, so lots of autistic support, saw some emotional support. All right, learning support, emotional support.
We recognize that your work in these classrooms is essential, and we really appreciate all of your work in all of those spaces.
Absolutely. So next we're going to delve into a pop quiz on some of the different support types that we just read about. So again, I'm going to read the screen out loud, and then you can put in the chat what your answer is. So for the first question, we have services for these students might help with verbal and nonverbal communication, social skills, responding to changes in their environment or routine, and provide support for positive behavior. Would that be a learning support environment, autistic support, life skill support, or multiple disability support? All right, so we do have a couple different answers, and the answer is B for autistic support, because again, it's going to be focusing on verbal communication, as well as nonverbal communication, social skills, and changes in their environment. So what about what program describes services for students with a disability who require support primarily primarily in the areas of social and emotional learning, or functional behaviors, that vision support, learning support, emotional support, or multiple disabilities. Absolutely. So that lots of C's, it is emotional support. So services for students with a disability who require support primarily in one of the areas of academic, functional, or vocational skills necessary for independent living. So vision support, life skills support, learning support, or deaf and hard of hearing. Yep, lots of B's in the chat and life skills. It is life skills because it's promoting working with students with those areas of need and focusing on independent living skills. And then the program for students with more than one disability resulting in severe impairment requiring services primarily in the areas of academic, functional, or vocational skills necessary for independent living. Absolutely. So, yep, again, we have lots of D's. It is multiple disabilities, as this program supports students with more than one disability. So the program for services for students who require services to address needs primarily in the area of accessing print and other visually presented materials, orientation and mobility, accessing public and private accommodations, or the use of assistive technology designed for individuals with visual impairments or blindness. So we have intensive learning support, autistic support, vision support, or multiple disabilities. And absolutely, so we do have a lot for vision support, which is the correct program. And then finally, services for students with any combination of vision and hearing loss requiring specific instructional strategies that address the presence of both sensory impairments. So deaf and hard of hearing, emotional support, life skills, or autistic support. And absolutely, that's deaf and hard of hearing support would be this program. So the answer is A.
We want you to take a second to think about this question here on the screen and provide your answer in the chat. How does understanding these supports and services help you in your role as a paraprofessional? Absolutely, it helps you to do your job efficiently. Helps you to stay in your lane, helps you to know the kids the best that you can. It might also help you to kind of tailor your support based on what you know about the children in the classroom where you're working. Great, thanks you. Thank you. Now we're going to transition into special education supports and services. Special education services are designed to address academic, functional, and behavioral needs. Understanding the different types of supports like IEP goals, SDIs, or specially designed instruction and accommodations will be critical for you as you work directly with students in order to help them succeed. Think back to the video we watched about the special education process. We learned that when students are found eligible for special education, then they are entitled to supports and services that are tailored to address their unique needs identified in that eligibility process. You will work in programs that provide academic, functional, and behavioral supports to help the students succeed. The support program is just one part of the service that the school district must provide. How we implement the supports is the Individualized Education Plan, or the IEP. The IEP outlines specific goals, services, and supports needed for the students to make progress. And as shared in the video, it's reviewed regularly and updated based on the student's progress. So as you see in this flow chart here, we determine the eligibility. We identify if the student has a disability from one of those 13 disability categories we went through a few slides back, and do they require special education? If they meet those criteria, then an IEP is developed with specific goals, services, and supports needed for that student to make progress. Remember, that's an individualized document, so it's specific to that student. And then the last piece is the supports and services. What academic, functional, and behavioral support does the student need in order to be successful? Now let's talk about what is an IEP. An IEP is a legal document that is a personalized plan that lays out the program of special education instruction, supports, and services that students need to make progress and thrive in school. The main sections of an IEP that you'll need to know about are presented here on your screen. The first is the present levels of performance. The present levels will describe the student's current abilities, their skills, and identify any challenges that they have in both academic and functional areas. Then in the middle box, you'll see the goals and objectives. The goals and objectives are specific, measurable objectives designed to address a student's unique academic and functional needs. And what do they need in order to make progress in those areas? And finally, in the specially designed instruction, those are teaching strategies or methods that are used to meet the unique needs of students with a disability, ensuring that they can access and make progress in the general education curriculum.
So let's take a look at the first part, which is present levels of performance. So the present levels of performance refer to how the child is performing within the general education curriculum, including reading, writing, and math. Functional performance is related to activities of daily living, such as hygiene, dressing, basic consumer skills, community-based instruction. Knowing where your student stands in terms of academic skills like reading and writing and math, and functional skills such as daily living activities helps you provide targeted support. For example, if the present levels of performance indicate that students needs help with reading comprehension, you can focus on strategies that improve their reading skills. Here on the screen is an example of a real IEP present level performance. You can notice how the student's current grade summarizes how the student performed on the STAR assessment in literacy and math. And there's also information about the student's behavior and the summary of behavior assessment that was completed. So all great information for teachers to use as a baseline when knowing where the student's at to begin with, so that they can create a plan moving forward to help address any deficits that that student might have.
Once you have the present levels of performance, then the team is able to develop some IEP goals. Here is an example of that same student's IEP goal for behavior. Goals and objectives are designed to target the specific areas of need for students with disabilities to ensure they make meaningful progress. These goals are personalized, measurable, and tailored to each student's unique abilities and challenges. Regular review and adjustment of IEP goals is essential to ensure that they remain relevant and effective in supporting the student's growth.
Next, we have specially designed instruction, or what we call SDIs. These are also modifications that help support the student throughout the school day. So this can take place either in the general education classroom, in the special education classroom, or across all environments. They also provide strategies on how to adapt lessons and provide support to the student. And it also supports and training and provides training opportunities for staff to implement the IEP on this page. And I know it's a little bit small, but can you see from this example on the screen, what are some of the modifications and SDIs listed for this student that teachers could follow? Absolutely, visual support is listed there. That example would be across all environments. The frequency would be on a daily schedule. Yep, verbal and nonverbal instruction. There's also some related services that are listed there. As we know, some of our students require some extra support. So in this example, we have occupational therapy, which would occur at the individual level. They would have speech and language therapy in a group setting, which would be 2 or more students. They'd also have transportation, as well as a one-to-one adult assistant.
Ignacio Estrada's insightful quote, "If a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn." This underscores the importance of adaptive education. Take a moment to think about what this quote means to you as your role as a paraprofessional.
In the chat, how can you apply this quote in your role as a paraprofessional to support students with diverse learning needs? You can share an example of how you might adapt your approach to better meet the needs of a student within your classroom. Absolutely, to modify lessons. Yep, maybe providing more time for students to complete any instructions or tasks. Again, that could be listed as an SDI or specially designed instruction. Helps to meet their goals. Yep, grouping is always great to make sure students are learning at their own pace. And this perspective really challenges educators to recognize and embrace the diverse learning styles of our students. So instead of adhering strictly to traditional methods, teachers are encouraged to be flexible and initiative, tailoring their approach to fit the unique needs of each child. So this could involve incorporating hands-on activities, visual aids, or interactive technology, thereby creating a more inclusive and effective learning environment. By prioritizing the individual learning preferences of students, educators can foster a more engaging and supportive educational experience, ultimately helping each child reach their full potential based on their unique learning styles.
It's helpful to know the difference between accommodations and modifications. Accommodations, listed on the left, change how a student learns the material, like using visual aids or extra time on a test. Modifications, listed on the right, change what a student is expected to learn, such as they have a different homework assignment or an alternative assignment in class. For accommodations, you might use things like visual aids, different ways to complete the work, changes in the classroom setting, changing to the timing. For modifications, it could mean giving a totally different assignment or adjusting what topics are taught to that student. Any changes are included in the student's IEP, and any new strategies will be determined by the IEP team before starting them.
So here we have some examples of specially designed instruction. So visual supports like charts, diagrams, or picture schedules to reinforce learning, picture communication systems, support for behavior such as break cards, movement breaks, and sensory support such as headphones or fidgets. Are there any other examples that are not included on this slide that you may have used with your students in previous years? And again, this is not an exhaustive list. There's quite a few that can be used. All right, a penny chart could be used as some token reward system, other manipulatives.
Some accommodations may include access to assistive technology, and it's critical as a paraprofessional to familiarize yourself with assistive technology in a student's IEP. By definition, assistive technology is any type of technology that helps people with disabilities perform functions that might otherwise be difficult or impossible. Assistive technology includes mobility devices like a walker or a wheelchair, software, keyboards with larger keys, amplification systems that allow students with hearing loss to access the teacher's voice. Not all of the supports need to be highly technical, which we'll go over in more detail soon.
So let's take a look at some common activities and support across content areas. So across different content areas and settings, there are a variety of activities students are consistently asked to do, some of which are listed on our screen. Often students are asked to sit and listen, which we know can be challenging for some students. For students that have a lot of energy or need support focusing on the task like this, you can try a few different approaches, such as supplement the teacher's instruction and visuals, or direct the student's attention to pre-made visuals. You may be able to use a ball, a wiggle seat, or another adaptive seating to sit on. Perhaps a secret sign to start listening can be really helpful, kind of like a pitcher and catcher at a baseball game. Or if students are expected to take notes during the lecture, which can be difficult for students and adults alike, before offering any of the following supports, it's essential to teach students how to use the tool or strategy being offered, but you may want to provide students with a graphic organizer, choice about how to take notes. This could mean drawing images with a few words, note-taking applications, a copy of the teacher's notes with keywords eliminated, and to offer a fill-in-the-blank roadmap of the lesson, lecture notes with pictures included, a laptop computer where students can type or collect images in a document for the notes. The next one can feel unavoidable, even if the world of project-based learning. But here are some easy ways to make worksheets more accessible that you may be asked by the teacher to help to prepare. You can use a word bank, sticker labels with answers, highlighting the directions, fewer problems or questions on the worksheet, or a window to display one prompt at a time. Or you may be asked to facilitate some testing adaptations, such as a review of test strategies, like underlining keywords, eliminating incorrect multiple choice answers, a review of the information, a double-spaced test, easy questions first, and a reader for the test. Next, group discussions can be challenging or even stressful for many students with and without a diagnosis. So some strategies in facilitation discussion among students could look like taking a talking object may help students with a tendency to interrupt to have a visual reminder of who should have the floor next. Note cards with students' ideas written down with a bit of pre-planning. A pre-programmed communication device with questions on it. A piece of paper to how to draw ideas or concepts, and choice on how to participate. Writing can also be one of the most difficult things for some students to conquer, and for a variety of reasons. So it may be helpful for students to tell a friend the story before writing it down. Again, you can use graphic organizers or bullet writing to create an outline of ideas first. For fine motor needs, you may use a special pencil grip or raised line paper so students can feel the lines. Type instead of handwriting, and use stickers to fill in the blank or other manipulatives to build sentences. In today's classroom, students are frequently asked to use computers. From benchmarking programs to review game hubs and everything in between, students are being asked to interact with technology like never before. And we learned so much in the year or two that students spent home on Zoom. You may want to support with strategies like a task card, enlarged font, adaptive equipment like alternative keyboards or a touchscreen, or built-in features like adjusted delay or on the mouse with a screen reader. Since paraprofessionals often have the most contact with students throughout the day, a frequent task is helping students stay organized. And again, this can look like color-coded folders, a planner, a picture schedule, clock or timer on the desk, and consistent routines. So now that we have ways to help students in our toolkit, you may have realized how many of them are rooted in assistive technology. But remember how we said earlier that not all assistive technology has to be high tech. Some of our classroom's best supports are actually low tech or no tech options at all.
All right, we're going to go through an assistive technology activity now. We're asking you to think of an everyday office item, maybe something you can see right now where you're at, something you have very close to you, but an everyday office item. And we're going to start the timer for 1 minute. And in 1 minute, we want you to think of as many uses as you can for that item to support a student as an assistive technology. Great. Thank you for engaging in that activity with us. I saw some really great answers in the chat. Paper clips, pencil grips, cards or books. Pencils can be used with hand over hand, whisper phones so that they can be communicative without being disruptive, using a folder. I know over here I thought about a Post-it note, and think about all the uses of a Post-it note for a student. It could be an agenda. I could use it as a positive note to share a note with the student I'm working with. As a guide while I'm reading, it could follow underneath the words. So many things that are accessible to us on a regular everyday basis within our spaces can be used as assistive technology for the students that we're supporting.
So next, we're going to review information about a student and complete an activity to identify the correct specially designed instruction or SDIs. All right, so let's meet Alex here. So Alex is a fictional student. He's an 8-year-old student in a K-2 AS classroom. He receives support from paraprofessionals and participates in the least restrictive environment when he goes to specials, lunch, and recess with the 2nd grade general education classroom. Alex's needs are published here. So let's take a minute to look at each domain and think to yourself, what do you notice about his needs? Have you ever worked with a student similar to his needs? And how can we utilize some specially designed instruction to meet Alex's needs? So let's look at his communication needs. So he's nonverbal. He uses an AAC device. For personal maintenance, he needs support increasing independence in his toileting routine. He has sensory needs. He's highly sensitive to loud or unexpected noises, which can trigger sensory overload and distress. His behavior needs, he has difficulty understanding and coping with delays, which leads to disruptive behaviors, maybe crying, grabbing items, dropping on the floor. He has functional academic needs to support to color, write, or cut, needs to learn all letter sounds, and needs to learn to add 1-digit numbers. And then finally, his recreational leisure needs. He only plays with 1 or 2 toys, and he enjoys screens and the iPad. So based on that fictional student of Alex, we're going to play a game. So in the next slides, we're going to present one of Alex's needs identified in his IEP, and then we're going to decide which SDI makes the most sense to support him in this situation. And again, you can just put these answers in the chat. So let's take a look at number 1. So his personal maintenance needs. So Alex needs support to increase independence in his toileting routine. So would you use the first SDI listed, which is allow him to use the bathroom on his own, or the second one, which was provide prompts for some steps of routine? Absolutely. So that is answer 2. So Alex is working on becoming independent with his toileting routine, which means there are some steps where he would need support. So we could provide support and prompts with those steps until he demonstrates mastery of those steps on his own. And then we can allow him to use the bathroom on his own.
Okay, Alex is highly sensitive to loud or unexpected noises, which can trigger sensory overload and distress. Which SDI would you use to support his sensory needs? Would you use number 1, use a timer, or number 2, use a calm down corner? Lots of 2s in the chat. Correct, you would use a calm down corner or have access to a calm down corner so that he could be there when he exhibits signs of distress.
All right, so let's look at his recreation and leisure needs. So he only plays with 1 or 2 toys, and he does enjoy screens on the iPad. So what SDI would you use to increase his play? Number 1, structured play groups, or 2, access to the iPad? All right, kind of seeing a combination of both in the chat. We would use slide 1 for structured play groups. So while Alex does enjoy the iPad, we'd want him to work on developing new leisure skills and activities, as well as social skills, and learn how to play with other children. So we would try to increase his play skills by developing these structured play groups. And you can absolutely use, the iPad as a reward.
In terms of functional academics, Alex needs support to color, write, or cut. He needs to learn all of the letter sounds, and he needs to learn to add 1-digit numbers. What SDI listed here would you use to support his academic skills? Would you use number 1, simplified language and visuals, or number 2, a worksheet? Some mixed answers there in the chat, mostly 1s. The answer is number 1. Using simplified language and visuals can support Alex in learning letter recognition, math skills, and guidance to complete coloring, writing, and cutting. Alex may not have all of the skills yet needed to complete a worksheet.
So let's look at his behavior needs. So he has difficulty understanding and coping with delays, which leads to disruptive behaviors such as crying, grabbing items, and dropping to the floor. So which SDI would you use below to help cope with the delays? 1, utilize a first then visual, or 2, provide noise canceling headphones. All right, so seeing mostly 1s in the chat, some 2s. The answer would be number 1. We'd want to first utilize a first then visual. So using a visual like the first then board helps students understand the sequence of activities, making it easier for them to follow routines and transitions. It shows what needs to be done first, usually the less preferred task, and then what will happen next. which is typically more of a preferred activity. So as we are coming to a close here today, we're asking, what is one new strategy that you learned today and that you're excited to implement with your students over the course of this school year? So we do welcome everybody to put in the chat. So we see some break cards. Absolutely. The first then visuals, always great, especially when working with students with maybe some behavior needs, more cue cards. I personally really liked, somebody shared the whisper phone in the chat. I think that's a great way to allow students to kind of express some of their concerns in an environment that's not so disruptive to everybody else. I think that's a great idea. So a lot of break cards and cues and using nonverbal prompts, whisper phone, excellent. So lots of great information, and hopefully you all can take something back to your classrooms to implement throughout the school year.
We thank you for your participation today. In just a second, we're going to share with you the survey and the attendance form, which will allow you to get credit for attending today's session. We wish you all a very great school year this year. In the chat, Brett is going to drop the link to the attendance form and the survey. As a reminder, you are expected to stay at your school through the end of the school day, and you have some asynchronous learning to engage in this afternoon. On your screen now, you'll see a QR code for the attendance form if you prefer to complete it that way. Brett has also dropped the link into the chat. Just a reminder that you must be logged into your district email to complete that attendance form, and they'll need your first and last name and your employee ID number. And you're going to choose today as the day that you attended the virtual PD. In the middle in the blue, there is a link to a survey, again, a QR code on the screen, or Brett has dropped the link in the chat. We're asking that participants complete this survey one time. It's due at the end of your PD day. Well, it's actually due Monday, August 28th, but we prefer that you complete it today since it's fresh in your memory. And then again, the last box, just a reminder about asynchronous learning and prep time. You are required to complete phishing and cybersecurity awareness. That link is in your Power School, which we went through earlier today. Brett and I are happy to stay on until about 1:15 if you need support in accessing either the attendance link or the survey, or you need support in finding your trainings in Power School. We're happy to support you there. If you have any questions about anything that was presented in today's session, you're more than welcome to drop them in the chat, come off mute and ask us personally, or use that parking lot that we've shared with you to share your questions there, and you'll get a response to that. But otherwise, we thank you and we wish you a really successful school year. As you complete your attendance and your survey link, we're going to show a quick video on how to access that asynchronous learning so that you need it just in case you need to figure out how to access it in Power School. So we'll click through and you can watch that video. Otherwise, feel free to communicate with us in the chat.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for participating in the August 2024 Paraprofessional PD today. We appreciate your time and engagement. We are now going to spend some time going over how to access your required asynchronous learning that you will be completing for the next 30 minutes. You will be doing this independently on your Chromebooks. Please try to find a quiet place in the room, as well as headphones to engage successfully in this asynchronous learning. You will be completing the email security and phishing training. All district employees are required to complete this training in Power School by September 30th, 2024. You do not have to complete the Understanding Data Privacy and AI Fundamentals asynchronous training. This is because paraprofessionals do not make decisions around the use of online programs or the use of AI with students. These decisions are made under the guidance of the classroom teacher. However, these training sessions will be available in Power School later in the school year, if you are interested. In order to locate your required asynchronous training, please go into Power School. You can find PowerSchool by going into your Hollywood Squares and locating the square that is titled PD Management System. Once you enter PowerSchool, you will be taken to a home screen that looks like this. On the right-hand side, you can find your courses under the My Courses widget. Under that My Courses widget, you will see My Learning Opportunities. You can open My Learning Opportunities by clicking on the arrow or hide My Learning Opportunities. When it is open, you should be able to see your course pop up. This course is titled Email Security and Phishing, and that is the course that you want to access. You may see other learning opportunities listed here, and those are all of the courses that you have registered for already. For the purposes of this video, you will see ADHD overview, ASD overview, and EBD overview. These are simply example sessions, so you can see what it looks like to access asynchronous sessions. Again, what you should see and be clicking on is email security and phishing. Once you click on email security and phishing, it should take you to a screen that looks like this. Under course details, you should see a button that says View Again and I'm finished. Please click View Again. Once you click View Again, a new window should appear that looks like this. This window will take you to the asynchronous course that you need to complete. Please go through the asynchronous course and complete it through this new window. Once you complete the course, please make sure you come back to this page and click I'm finished. This will indicate that you have officially completed the course. You must click the I'm finished button to get completion credit on your transcript. Thank you for listening to this asynchronous learning stepper around how to access the session title, Email Security and Phishing. Have a great day.
I'm going to jump back a screen, just share again the links to the attendance in the survey. Once you complete your attendance link and your survey, you are more than welcome to log out of this Zoom and complete your asynchronous learning. Brett and I will be here for another 20 or so minutes to answer any questions you might have or to support you in completing the attendance or the survey link. Thank you again.